The truth is, many men have a fear of loneliness. They cannot tolerate silence and stillness. They move from one relationship to another, always expecting someone to fill the void. Why? Because deep down, they are avoiding confronting their own selves. However, for those who embrace solitude, the situation is entirely different. All distractions disappear, the noise diminishes, and for the first time, you see the world as it is and yourself as the version you could become. This is why the longer you stay single, the stronger you become. Your mind opens, your expectations rise, time becomes yours, and before you realize it, you become someone whom others cannot influence. But you must remember that this transformation comes with a price. Before explaining everything, support this channel by subscribing and leaving a like. This will ensure that the messages we want to convey reach the right people. If you are serious about becoming unstoppable, don't leave here, because I will give you controversial secrets that no one will tell you. The first secret: you no longer seek external validation. Most men spend their lives trying to gain approval from women and meeting others' expectations. But a man who remains single for a long time completely breaks free from this cycle. He no longer wakes up thinking, "Do they like me? Did they notice? Did they compliment me?" He stops striving to prove himself to women, society, or friends. He gains invulnerability. When a man no longer seeks women's approval, he reaches a level of power that is rarely attainable. When you do not need validation, people automatically start respecting you. When you do not beg for attention, you become the center of attention. When a man does not compromise his standards for a woman's love, he holds all the power in that environment. Because of this, women are drawn to men who are not dependent on them. While other men try to impress her, you feel no anxiety. The moment a woman senses this, everything changes. She wonders, why doesn't he seek my approval? Why is he different? She tries to understand what makes you so unreachable, in control, and independent. And only this mystery makes her obsessed. Many men will never experience this because they are constantly busy chasing rather than choosing. They have to change their thoughts, soften their words, agree with things they do not believe in, just to gain a relationship. But a man who remains single for a long time realizes that the real reward is himself, not someone else. He understands that his value matters more than a woman's opinion. The moment he stops performing acrobatics to impress a woman, women suddenly start doing the same for him. Some call this toxic, arrogant, or intimidating. But deep down, they respect it. Because every woman wants a man she cannot completely control. Not someone desperately trying for her attention. A man who withdraws at the first sign of disrespect. And when a man fully embraces this, his entire life changes. He no longer asks for permission to be himself. He does not compromise his standards. Either the woman adapts to his expectations, or she has no place in his life. When a woman senses this level of self-respect, she begins to compete for him, not the other way around. A man who knows his value never seeks a woman's approval because he is already complete. He does not chase love to fill a void because he is already whole. The world is unfamiliar with this type of man. Society has trained men to worship women rather than improve themselves, to stay silent rather than speak the truth, to give up their masculinity. But when a man rejects this, he transforms into someone entirely different. He sees things most people cannot: how men lose themselves in relationships, weaken themselves to make a woman happy, and give up their dreams, and he chooses another path. He chooses himself. He chooses purpose over feelings. He embraces focus over temporary allure. He builds his world before letting anyone in. Therefore, he behaves differently. He communicates with certainty, not hesitation. He moves with confidence, not doubt. He does not demand respect, he earns it. This level of self-confidence can intimidate some people. It has a negative effect on weaker men and influences women. It unsettles society because the expectation is that men should be weak, controlled, and emotionally dependent. However, the longer a man stays single, the stronger he becomes, because he begins to see the truth behind everything. At that point, he understands that women do not respect men who are worshipped. They value men who are not dependent on them. Success does not come from making others happy, it comes from making yourself happy first. Confidence is born not from chasing approval but from completely rejecting it. And once you step into this power, there is no turning back. Many men spend years of their lives seeking to be liked, chosen, or appear enough, moreover, for women who add no value to their lives. But a man who breaks free from this cycle becomes rare and impressive. Because when he stops chasing, his entire energy shifts. He no longer speaks like a man asking for permission to exist. He no longer behaves like someone afraid of being alone. He stops being someone who seeks approval. He is so focused on his life, his purpose, and his power that nothing and no one can shake him. And this is the greatest transformation. This is the difference between men who remain weak and those who become impressive. This is why the longer you stay single, the stronger you become. Every moment spent alone is time dedicated to self-improvement, clarifying your mind, building your empire, and clearing the weaknesses in your soul. And when you decide to let someone into your life, it is no longer out of desperation but from a position of strength. You are not looking for a relationship to fill a void. You choose someone who deserves a place in your life, and this changes everything. This is a position of control, and the reason most men cannot reach this level is their fear of being alone. They are dependent on a woman's approval. While they struggle to be liked, they prefer being needy over being respected, focusing on acceptance rather than genuine appreciation. But men who embrace solitude, strengthen their discipline, and refuse to let modern relationships weaken them are the men with a future. These men will occupy the highest positions, while others fight over the leftovers. The second secret: standards become clear. When a man distances himself from the distractions of modern relationships and turns inward, a significant change occurs. His standards rise. He no longer tolerates nonsense, manipulation, or inadequate effort from women who think their presence is enough. He loses patience for games. He gains a sharp eye against the fake face of modern dating. He does not waste his time with women who add no value to his life, do not deserve his attention, and drain his energy arbitrarily. When a man distances himself from the dating scene, his perception of self-worth changes. He begins to want more for himself and, in doing so, demands more from those around him. This extends from his work life to friendships, from his social circle to especially his romantic relationships. He is no longer blinded by passion, desperation, or loneliness. He does not maintain meaningless conversations, superficial connections, or relationships that exist merely for convenience. His standards become clear because he sharpens himself, and before long, the world begins to treat him differently. Women notice this immediately. What a woman can perceive is this: the difference between a man who accepts everything and a man who knows his value and is selective. In the modern dating world, where many men are desperate, open, and weak, men with high standards are rare, exceptional, and become a force resistant to manipulation. However, this change comes at a cost. Not every woman will be suitable for him anymore. Those who rely solely on their appearance are filtered out, those who play emotional games become apparent, and those who pursue a man but give him nothing are ignored. True power lies in knowing when to walk away and in not compromising your values, in resisting momentary pleasures without giving in. Because while many men chase approval, lower their standards to gain a woman's interest, and break their own rules, a man who has stayed single for a long time and can see the truth becomes immune to others' traps. He observes that other men sell their reputation to attract attention, give up their dreams, and sacrifice their peace to make a woman happy. And he possesses the awareness that he will never be one of those men. Therefore, he understands that attraction comes not from weakness but from strength. A man who feels complete without needing a relationship is considered the most dangerous man. When a woman encounters a man who cannot be manipulated by emotions, beauty, or attention, she struggles to earn his approval. This difference is immediately felt. The man does not step back, does not chase when tested, does not react when provoked. Because he understands a truth most men do not, women respect a man who is willing to step away. When a man truly adheres to his standards, everything changes: his behavior, his speech, his posture, all command unquestioned respect. His presence alone sends a message many women do not recognize. He is a man who does not beg for love, does not accept worthless behavior, and does not belong to the weak, approval-seeking crowd. This trait separates him from others. He does not complain about modern dating. He overcomes it. He does not oppose women's expectations. He moves forward easily. He does not lament the quality problems in dating. He simply rejects the superficial. He sees his life as precious, his purpose vital, and his time invaluable. When he enters a relationship with a woman, he does so willingly, not out of need. He makes choices carefully and consciously. When tested, he also tests the other party. He is not deceived by her appearance alone. He wants to know what she contributes. Beyond beauty, what does she offer? What does she add with her presence? Does she contribute, or only take? Can she support a man with purpose, or is she a distraction in the background? If the answer is unclear, he steps away. Neither with anger nor resentment, only with indifference. A man with high standards does not argue, he simply continues on his path. This makes him impressive. Because when a woman realizes that a man's attention is not easily earned, that his approval is not freely given, and that he is not a tool for her games, she does everything she can to meet his standards. The longer you stay single, the stronger you become. Because you understand that you are never dependent on the world, and you can fully find yourself without a relationship. You do not need anyone's approval to feel valuable. You do not need to compromise, despite what society says. You build yourself in such a way that you become the reward. You choose who enters your life. You reach such a high position that only the most exceptional women can capture your attention. This is the power of solitude. This is the effect of high standards. Therefore, the longer you stay single, the clearer your perspective, the higher your expectations, and the less tolerance you have for absurdities. Once you experience the clarity of being free from distractions, with no possibility of returning to low-value relationships, it is impossible to step back. Thirdly, emotional resilience replaces emotional neediness. When a man frees himself from the chaos of modern relationships and the constant desire for validation, he becomes aware of a strong force within. Emotions no longer control him. He does not react to desperation, loneliness, or the need to be accepted. He begins to think clearly. Every man who has stayed single for a long time must face an inner struggle that destroys most men, the conflict between emotional control and emotional dependency. The weak allow their emotions to dictate every move. They are subjected to manipulation. They are pressured. They endure disrespect. They react without deciding. But a man who masters self-control becomes unshakable. Women constantly test men, wanting to avoid the weak by eliminating those without emotional control. A woman can challenge, provoke, or create situations to see if a man breaks. Unfortunately, many men fail these tests without understanding what is happening. They argue, beg, complain, and appear weak in her eyes. When a man becomes emotionally weak in front of a woman, she loses all respect for him. She does not know why, but she feels it. Because a man who cannot control himself is not trustworthy. For this reason, emotional strength is a man's greatest advantage, it makes him untouchable. When a man sits in discomfort without reacting, and when he remains unshaken in the face of challenges and disrespect without explanation, he immediately stands out among 99% of other men. Women are dependent on emotional uncertainty. They live in a world where feelings constantly change, where words mean something today and something different tomorrow. And when they encounter someone emotionally strong, who remains logical in every situation, it is impossible not to respect him. A man's ability to control his emotions directly affects his power in every area of life. That is why weak men always lose. They act on impulse. They behave according to their emotional state. A woman's mood affects a man's mental state. They lose themselves and, in doing so, lose the respect of everyone around them. The longer a man stays single, the more he learns to trust logic over emotions. He learns to remain still without reacting, to think before responding, to think before speaking. And once a man reaches this stage, he becomes impossible to manipulate. An emotionally unreactive man is no longer any woman's toy. A man who prefers silence over drama is unaffected by any argument. A man who remains calm among those who lose control cannot be shaken by any situation. But this change does not happen suddenly. It occurs when a man faces himself alone, without anyone soothing his emotions or distracting his attention. That is why many men fear solitude, because when alone, they must confront their weaknesses. They can no longer blame others for their mistakes. They cannot use relationships to escape their own problems. They must either grow stronger or accept remaining weak indefinitely. But those who embrace this transformation, who quietly work on themselves and master their emotions, become dangerous. Men whose presence is felt wherever they go, who never break under stress, and who never lose themselves in chaos. This is the difference between ordinary men and men who have mastery over their own reality. A woman is always interested in a man she cannot control. She feels a constant curiosity toward a man who does not break when tested. No matter how much effort she exerts, she always longs for a man who stands strong. Yet, most men never experience this even once because they are usually weak, overly emotional, and reactive. They lose themselves in arguments, jealousy, and insecurity. Therefore, most men always remain in a changeable position. But a man who removes emotional dependency from his life, chooses to walk away in disrespectful situations, never begs for attention, recognizes manipulation without reacting, and maintains his composure is exceedingly rare. That man earns respect. He is not one who chases, explains himself, or bends to others' wishes. He lives by his own terms and rules, with a sense of self-respect that many men cannot comprehend. Many men crumble when rejected. A strong man does not care and moves on. Most men beg for a woman's attention. A strong man directs his attention only toward those who deserve it. Most men fear solitude. Yet a strong man knows that solitude is where powerful people are forged. Therefore, the longer a man stays single, the stronger he becomes. He learns that his emotions are temporary, that controlling them is possible, and that they do not dictate his actions. He stops chasing happiness in relationships and begins creating his own purpose. He abandons the need for comfort in women and undertakes the discipline of self-improvement. He stops tying his value to external factors because he understands that his worth comes from within. When a man reaches this level of emotional maturity, he becomes unstoppable. The world cannot destroy an emotionally unshakable man. No woman can manipulate a man who always maintains control. No challenge can defeat a man who has learned not to react impulsively. This is what separates the weak from the strong. Most men never follow this path because they are tied to comfort, approval, and emotional dependency. But those who follow this path rise, conquer, and move through life with a power that others can only admire from afar. No argument, rejection, or fleeting feeling can shake them. They understand that emotional control is a source of strength in all areas of life, relationships, career, success, and leadership. When they assess where they stand, they see that they have already won. Fourthly, you achieve unstoppable focus. When a man withdraws from relationships, distractions, and emotional attachments, he enters a state others never experience. Pure, unstoppable focus. His mind sharpens, his goals become clear, and everything that drains energy becomes insignificant. He no longer wastes time texting women who do not value him, pursuing meaningless relationships, or engaging in empty conversations that consume his energy. His life shifts from seeking approval to self-improvement. He becomes obsessed with growth, mission, and personal transformation. The longer he stays single, the more his mind reorganizes, directing all energy toward what truly matters: purpose, wealth, physical fitness, and mastery. At this point, he becomes formidable, untouchable. Because a man who ends the pursuit of temporary pleasures, the emotional fluctuations of undeserving women, and the distractions of societal expectations becomes the strongest presence in any room. While others falter, he is focused. While others are distracted, he is resolute. While others are weak, he is ruthless. Most men cannot reach this level because they cling to comfort. They spend their days seeking quick dopamine hits on social media instead of improving themselves. They waste their energy messaging women who do not contribute to their lives, staying up late, and squandering their best energy. They believe they are productive but remain trapped in the same cycle, never progressing, constantly distracted. A man who has stayed single for a long time escapes this vicious cycle. He sees every moment as an opportunity to sharpen his mind, strengthen his body, and build his life. He understands that every wasted minute jeopardizes his future success. He no longer lives in the moment but shapes his future. He focuses on achievement rather than pleasure. He does not waste time with unnecessary women. He invests his time in becoming an independent man. Understanding that focus is the greatest strength in a world designed to keep men weak and scattered, he progresses. Therefore, men focused on their goals always become more successful, respected, and attractive than those lost in the chaos of modern relationships. Focus is attractive. When a man acts with discipline, prioritizes goals over temporary feelings, and builds his future with courage, people notice. Women sense this. They realize he does not have time for trivial matters, that his energy is too valuable to waste, and that his attention is reserved for what truly matters. Suddenly, women who previously ignored him start gravitating toward him. Not because he chases them, but because he does not lose interest. Because he has become a man who does not need a woman. This is one of the most attractive traits a man can have. A man with goals, walking a clear path, so busy conquering the world that he does not waste time on the unworthy. A truly focused man does not spend time explaining decisions or defending standards. He does not need to prove his value, results speak for themselves. Entering a room, everyone respects him without a word. Others sense that he is different. They can perceive that he operates at a level most men can never reach. They understand he is determined to achieve his goals and that nothing can stop him. This is what separates leaders from followers, kings from ordinary people, winners from losers. Most men spend their lives waiting for the right moment, the proper opportunity, or permission to be great. But the determined man simply acts. He wakes early before distractions arise. He trains his body because he knows strength is the foundation of power. He secures his finances because money is the gateway to freedom. He eliminates everything from his life that does not align with his goals, understanding that greatness requires sacrifice. Most men cannot show this courage. They remain stuck in comfort, spending time in distraction, watching time slip away, and chasing meaningless approval. They say to themselves, "I'll start tomorrow, I'll focus one day, I'll get serious later." But later never comes. Every lost day brings them closer to mediocrity, another day as a slave to emotions. For this reason, men who have stayed alone long enough to develop ruthless focus always stand out. They are willing to do what the weak never will. They are ready to avoid distractions, mediocrity, and the easy path. They are willing to suffer, sacrifice, and work today because today's discipline brings tomorrow's freedom. A man with unstoppable focus does not care what society expects of him. He does not worry about whether women approve of his lifestyle. He does not care whether others understand his mindset, knowing that most people are too weak to meet his standards. He exposes the illusion of modern relationships. He refuses to spend years pursuing fleeting pleasure, believing society's advice that comfort should come before conquest. Once he is fully focused, fully committed, and free of distractions, he becomes unstoppable. At that moment, he no longer chases success, success chases him. Fifthly, relationships cease to be a necessity and become a choice. A man who has been alone long enough, focused on his goals, clarified his mind, and removed distractions realizes that relationships are optional. He no longer enters a relationship out of societal pressure or the need to have someone. He does not see a woman as a missing piece because he is already whole. When a man reaches this level, everything changes. His energy transforms. He no longer feels pressure to conform, maintain relationships that conflict with his goals, or accept behaviors that do not meet his standards. He stops accepting random women into his life and makes choices meticulously. He no longer judges a woman solely by appearance. He evaluates character, mindset, and what she can contribute beyond mere presence. For modern women, the scariest part is that this is immediately noticeable. They recognize they are facing a man who can leave without fear. They realize they are not indispensable to him. This awareness motivates them to compete harder for his attention than for any other man. Most men are found in relationships because they believe they have no alternatives. They fear loneliness, rejection, societal expectations about marriage, or not having children by a certain age. But a man who has spent years improving himself, clarifying his mind, and pursuing his goals sees through this illusion. He understands that he does not need a relationship for happiness or meaning. The right woman should contribute to his life, not be at the center of it. Therefore, he is ready to distance himself from anything that does not align with his vision. He can say no to women who expect him to conform to their expectations. He is willing to remain alone until he finds the woman who meets his standards, rather than lowering them. A man with true power never settles. He does not chase women who have no value because he decides who enters his world. This fundamentally changes the dynamics of modern dating. Most women are accustomed to men making all sorts of sacrifices to attract them. But when they encounter a man who is not swayed by beauty and evaluates the situation differently, they do not know how to react. This man makes them feel special, questions why others are desperate, motivates them to exert more effort, and compels them to compete for him. A man immediately stands out from 99% of other men if he stops viewing relationships as a component of his happiness and never uses love as a tool to validate himself. He is no longer part of the weak majority. He is not the man who exerts every effort to be accepted, stretches his boundaries to maintain a woman's interest, or changes to avoid loneliness. He is a leader, not a follower, a king, not a servant. He sets rules, he does not follow them. Many men fear losing a woman, but a man who prioritizes his self-respect over any woman's value and has spent years alone understands the importance of this. He does not stay in energy-draining relationships. He does not tolerate games. He does not chase an indecisive woman. He does not beg or plead. He does not lose himself to keep a woman by his side. And that is why he earns a different kind of respect. His posture alone changes when he enters a room. He is not desperate, he moves with confidence. He does not hesitate, he speaks with authority. Every woman around him senses this. She understands that he is unlike other men. She recognizes that he will never bow under pressure. She perceives that he is a man who chooses to remain alone rather than be with the wrong person. And this is what makes him inherently attractive. The longer a man stays single, the better he understands what he wants. He no longer sees relationships as his sole purpose. He does not believe that he must marry by a certain age or that he is a failure for not following tradition. He defines his own success. He creates his own legacy. He shapes his future without anyone's approval. Therefore, when he finally decides to bring a woman into his life, he does so thoughtfully. He chooses based on value, not desperation. He chooses based on compatibility, not convenience. He selects a woman who fits into his world, not one who he expects to enter and then leave. This is where most men fail. They allow relationships to consume them. When they enter a relationship, they lose focus, forget their purpose, and even fail to understand the person they know. Thus, they drift away from what made them attractive. But a man who has spent years becoming his strongest self does not make this mistake. He understands that a relationship should complement his life, not be its center. He knows that a woman should bring peace, not chaos, support, not drama, stability, not instability. If these requirements are not met, he does not hesitate to walk away. He does not waste time changing, convincing, or fixing a broken situation because he knows a simple truth: there are many women in the world, but only one is special. Time is precious. Energy is valuable. Attention must be earned, not given freely. Every second wasted on an unknown woman, compromising, or allowing distraction is a moment stolen from the man he should be. You were not created to be average. You were not made to be weak. You do not have to follow society's path. The longer you stay single, the stronger you become. Not merely because you avoid relationships, but because you choose yourself first. You improve, evolve, and become a man who no longer begs, tolerates mediocrity, or allows the world to determine his value. And that man is rare. Unstoppable. Respected effortlessly.